everybody. It's backwards. That's hilarious. No, it's just right.
Yeah. But...
Oh, I'm just so used to being, I don't know. It's a reverse image to where we actually sit, which is funny to me. All right. Well done. I am Miss Jen.
And I'm Bean.
And this is Minute to Skim It, where we talk about really cool books that are coming out to a store near you, either today, if it's DC, if your store does DC Tuesdays, or tomorrow, which is when everything else comes out, at least for now. Who knows? I see a day in the future when it's like, release days whenever you want to put them on the rack. Congrats.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, most people, at least personally, I still come in on Fridays, even though I'm not even scheduled to work on Fridays, usually to pick up my books. I've got my day. I think a lot of people have their day they come in. So, I think we'll still have our Wednesday folks, even when they come out at all different times. Oh, man.
I swear, my brain has been completely on the fritz today. Like I'll try to think of some word and it's like, nope, access 404 file not found. But not when it comes to these books, except for if you see me open one up, it does mean that my file broke. So I'm going to start up here with Marvel Voices, Comunidades. I don't want to say it incorrectly.
No, that's right.
Is it Comunidades?
Nice.
All right, so this is a super thick book. I'm guessing it's an 80-page or 100-page book. It focuses in on what they are now calling Latinx characters, which I don't know if I like that because their culture is rich with their words all are masculine and feminine. So it's weird that they've thrown this thing in here when their community says, no, we don't like it. So my apologies if I'm using the term that offends you. It's never my intent at all, but that's what it says in it. So that's what I put on there. But these are awesome stories. Bunches and bunches of them. It's an impossible to read in one sitting for a minute to skim it, honestly. I could minute to skim it one story, I suppose. But I did minute to skim it the first one and the last one. So the very last one I love very much because, we learned about Miles Morales in the Into the Spider-Verse film is that he has a mixed heritage, right? African-American and Latino. And he himself does not appear to have the Latin part of himself. Is not part of the thing that is the first thing you notice about him. See the other parts of his culture. So the exploration here is that he really wants to represent the part of him that is his mom. And so they figure out a way in this story at the end, which is very sweet. So here you go. If you want it, there's all kinds of really great stories. They usually throw in a first appearance in these books. So if you like first appearances, it's a good place to start.
Alrighty, where am I going to start? I'm going to start down here. So I picked this one because I had not actually read a Boombox book before. The imprint of Boom that does mostly like younger, like not adult. So it's not just kids books. It's like teen, preteen, that whole age group. Yeah. So, and this one is awesome. This one is called Buckhead. It's the number one, and this one has a lot of depth to it. Like, definitely it's something that like a younger reader could follow. Probably not super young, probably like 9 or 10 could definitely like pick this up and really be kind of challenged by it and keeping up with like the mystery and everything. But this one is awesome. So basically the main character, he and his mom have moved to this town called Buckhead. And right away, right away, there's a little piece in the beginning. It's one of those where like it shows you a little snippet and you're like, who are these guys? What are they doing? And it's like this group of explorers, but it's very weird and like there's like technology involved and you're just kind of like, who are these people? And they're lost. But then the main story starts and you're seeing this kid who's visiting this town, and like moving into this town for the first time, and he's going to school on his first day, and like all this weird stuff starts happening. Like, he notices the kid who's walking with him to school has like a tattoo on his neck, which they're like young, so that's a little odd to have a neck tattoo at like 13. And then he's like, oh, who lives in that house over there? And the kid's like, what house? And he can't see the house. And so it's just like this whole thing of like all this weird stuff starts happening, and he goes to school and meets up with some other folks. They find something very spooky and weird in the school. It's so good. I'm not going to spoil like what they find, but it is an awesome book.
I like spooky, weird things you find in schools. Scarent Hood, was that the name of the IDW series? Scarent Hood was really good, where it was kind of like these parents go home to their elementary school to have kind of like a reunion.
But their kids also attend.
Their kids attend them now, and there's a weird dead kid that lives under the stage.
Oh, no.
There's a lot. There's a lot that goes on in that I've seen going on in some of these other books.
Maybe they were inspired.
They're spooky, but like there's a lot of like the heartwarming stuff that I love about them too. So I'm hoping Buckhead has some of that too. It's on my list too.
And Andy Dwyer's quote is this is my favorite quote. No lie, the first time I watched this episode of Parks and Rec, I could not breathe for about half an hour. This quote says I could have network connectivity problems.
Supposedly he completely improv that. It wasn't written. He just came up with it. Like, oh man.
If you've never seen that episode, you just gotta go just put that quote in and then find the episode and watch it. And when it happens, you're not expecting it at all. Thank you for that.
What are you gonna do next?
I did a whole bunch of number 2s. I think I'm going to do, as with my theme from last week, in which I have the runs and so can you when I sold my comic book runs. I'm going to do a bunch of number 2s.
Oh man.
I am an 8-year-old boy, so poop jokes are funny. All right, so this one is Nita Hawes Nightmare Blog by my friend Rodney Barnes, who is most of the time out in Hollywood rubbing elbows with the famous folks. This one is really cool. So the first issue, I'll catch you up. The Nita Hawes is a woman who I believe she might be a police officer, but her, you find out in the first issue that her brother died a while ago and reappears to her as a ghost. So he actually is a real part of her everyday life. And that part continues here as she investigates this crazy stuff that's going on. It's a little bit reality. The only thing that's really like not based in reality is the fact that he shows up and talks to her, which is, I don't know. There's something super sad and heartwarming and wonderful, and it's an advantage if you've got someone that's undead because they can't be hurt.
And that's the only supernatural thing going on in number 2? Because I know the first one had some big spookies.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Let me make sure you want to see the wrong thing. Here's the other problem. I read all of those books at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm like, that happened in that book or that other book?
Yeah.
Especially when there's, during the Halloween season when all of them are spooky.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Nope, it's all murdery stuff.
Wow.
No spiritual stuff. This one is like she's investigating some really weird murders. Really weird murders. My favorite thing. Hey, the Mag, how you doing? Welcome.
Alrighty. My one I'm going to do next is the first of, I think, I'm trying to think if there's 2 of them that have really long titles. I think this is my only one with a long title this week.
How long is it?
So this is Lady Mechanika, but is Lady Mechanika the Monster of the Ministry of Hell #1? Is small up here.
If you want to make it even longer, Joe Benitez is...
Oh, yeah, there's more words here hiding. It's like a search and find with the words. This one's really good. So I had not read the earlier series of Lady Mechanika. And I think this is a really good place. Like, I felt very good jumping in here. So if this is like, and this is a series, I'd always seen it, but I didn't really, you know, the series you see and you don't really know where to jump in with them. This is a good place if you're interested in Lady Mechanika or anything steampunk or cool like that. Because the interesting thing is this one is like going back to Lady Mechanika's origin story. This is like, and I know that there's been stories already out, but this one, so it begins with her in, I guess, modern day, not our modern day, but the modern day of her as Lady Mechanika, as, you know, out in the world, having known people and having gone on all these adventures that we've already seen in the earlier comics. And she is out at a fair with this little girl and her dad, who are, from Context Clues, characters in an earlier one. And then she starts, the doctor, who's the father of the child that she's out and about with, starts talking about how he has some regrets, because I guess that he was kind of a bad guy in the past. Like, he worked for the big bad organization, and that makes her sort of reminisce on like when she first not was created, but was kind of like found by the Ministry of Health, which is you start seeing like the inside of the Ministry of Health, and you start really questioning their definition of health, because it's a lot of like supernatural like weirdness, but it's very cool. So you start seeing like where you don't really know, I don't know where she came from, like, but she just kind of is like this mechanical, like half woman, half mechanical beast who's like feral when they find her. And it's like, I guess it's going to take her through her early years, and it's so good. Like I said, definitely if you like steampunk and if you've ever been curious about that series, it's a good one to pick up this week.
All right, so you're new to this comic book, but just so you know how it rolled out, Joe does almost everything for that book in the first, when it first came out. So it came out as an issue 0, and then we did not see another issue for the book for I think a year. And everybody wanted to have them, but because it was all done in house, it was a much slower roll. And Joe Benitez was doing it as his own self-published work until right now, when I think he hooked up with the Image. So now he's out through Image, which is brilliant. I think this is going to get him a bigger reach and a much bigger audience, even though he had a huge one anyway. But all the art is just so gorgeous.
It is beautiful. Like that, the cover art, all the interior art matches. Absolutely beautiful.
Oh, and Aspen too. See, I missed something. I did not remember. It's very cool.
That's right.
By the way, for everybody that's watching, do feel free to interact with us, and please start putting in the comments the books you're most interested that are coming out this week. You can tell other people, like if there's stuff that we're not reviewing here, but it's stuff you've been reading, and you can give a recommendation. Please feel free to. We love outside commentary about what is so cool. All right, I am going to do.
Hannah's holding up Archie's in the background.
Gosh, yeah, the Archie. All right, I'm going to do Knighted number 2. Don't be mad at Bill James. He puts out the good books. This is Knighted number 2. First issue is about this guy who is, I think, not really an active detective, but his intended, the girl he's living with and wants to ask to marry him, is the daughter of the chief of police. So he doesn't have a very glorified job. He doesn't have one of the fancy, like, I'm a detective and whatever. So he finds himself in this weird place in the first issue where he spent like 6 months' salary on an engagement ring for her and is going to give it to her. And in the morning, she basically says to him, I'm sorry, I'm going to only really consider a marriage with somebody. She's not breaking up with him. We're still living together, but I'm looking for someone who's more upwardly mobile than you. Basically what she says. She like neuters him. Just straight up neuters him. And then his ring gets stolen. You find out some more about his family, about why it would be really nice for him to have that money right now, because there's someone in his family that really needs medical help. And he ends up at this character's house, the knight, who has died. I can't remember how he died. It was something ridiculous, like he OD'd or something. I don't even know if he got killed by somebody that was important. Yeah. Maybe he did. And his Alfred is there, and then essentially tells him he has to put on the costume because somebody has to be the knight, right?
Yeah.
There can't be no knight.
Like the Santa Claus.
That's true.
Yeah. Then Tim Allen became Santa Claus. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So in this one, it's him dealing with the fallout about, the shame of having the ring stolen from him, even though he works for the police force and is trying to impress the police chief's daughter. And trying to figure out if he doesn't really want to be this dude. He has a life that's already got him occupied. So just wait till he figures out. I don't know why he hasn't wrapped around his mind around the fact that, the knight was rich and has really nice cars.
And Drew has said that he's reading a French series called Carbon and Silicone.
Ooh.
Which sounds pretty cool. Alrighty. This might be one of my favorites. It's definitely one of my favorites I read this week. I've been looking forward to this one. I've been seeing the ads in the other DC comics. This is Star Squadron number 1 of 6 from DC, and it says Superman level service at bizarro prices. And this is literally, it's kind of depressing.
So it's not like they got 1 stars from people that are just trying to bring them down so they're not effective, right? Like when you have someone in your town that has a store that's selling the same stuff, and they're just 1 star.
No, if they get 1 star, it's deserved.
Okay.
But, so basically, and it's very depressing at the beginning because let's see, their service is, the company is called Heroes with a Z for the number 4 U. Heroes for You. And they have an app, and basically it's kind of they literally say that it's for superheroes who need some extra cash, who want to get involved in the gig economy. So they can go on there and be like, hey, it kind of sounded like, what is that, Cameo? Where the stars can go on there. It's like that, but they can go do security or just whatever random things that people want them to do. It's not an escort service though. They have that in the advertisement at the beginning. But so basically the guy who's running it and is the boss of Heroes for You is the Red Tornado, who's this guy here who I got introduced to. But he so he's just trying to hold it together, and he has this they show that it's basically at a hospital somewhere. This older guy is very disoriented, and the nurses there are we don't know what to do with this guy. And then they see an ad for Heroes for You, so they just drop him off out front, still with the hospital gown on and everything, and no memory. And so the Red Tornado comes out, and he's a really nice guy, so he's well, I'm gonna try and help this older fella, who doesn't know who he is and has got no pants on. No. So and I mean it's really sweet because it's just about superheroes, but with everyday problems, trying to pay bills and struggling with having issues, and what about when they're past their prime, what do they do then, and so this one was awesome. So it's 1 Star Squadron from DC, and it is
the kingdom come but not so serious.
Yeah, it's definitely funny.
All right, do I have any other number 2s?
I don't think so.
We do. We have one we can do together.
You do have that one.
Let's do it together. What's the furthest place from here by my dudes, Boss and Rosenberg? It starts out in the bank where our group headed because they lost one of the members of their, I don't know.
It's a family.
Community. Yeah. This feels post-apocalyptic, but with no knowledge of what happened. They don't hang out with adults. They must exist because the rule is not to. They have little factions, but they're all like, teenage kids trying to be bossy. And the primary focus of this issue is trying to find the missing member of their group. But other crews or families with beef show up, and they meet a kid that's been left behind by his family, who now wants to join their family, but they're not about it. So, and then other funny things happen. It's one of those things that's like tragic, kind of like creepy, like The Walking Dead is when you don't know what's going on, although there's no zombies or anything. But also, there's a lot of really funny inside stuff. You'll be familiar with this kind of mood and tone from Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. So,
yeah, I haven't read that one, but it's just so funny. And like the conversations they have, like you can hear like these kids like arguing back and forth and just like bickering, but it is so good. And I still don't know what the heck is going on. Like it's one of those where you're in this world, the characters, what they're about, what they're looking for. I have no clue what's going on
or
in
what
this
the point
world.
Is, right?
Yeah, and like who
Where's
are
the
the strangers? Like what is this bigger world? And like I'm so excited for the episode or like the issue where it just like opens up and we're like, oh, this is what's been going on, because I know it's got to come sometime.
Yes.
Or I will lose my mind.
Drew's got a good description of this. The Warriors meets the Lord of the Flies meets the Purge.
Yes, exactly.
Accurate description, Drew.
All right. Let's see. Ooh, what am I doing next? Oh, I'm gonna do this one. So I got to read this one, which I didn't read the last one we had from CEX, which was Stud. This is my first one reading from them. This is Space Corps #1. And is it Space Corps? I'm supposed to put the S on it, or is it just Space Corps?
Just Space Corps.
Space Corps. Okay. So it's one of those words I've read a million times. But
you did much better because we've had a president that said corpse. So.
Oh, no. But so this one, and at first when I first looked at this, I thought that he was wearing a business suit, but he's not. It's a prisoner outfit. And these are big aliens behind him. Is like these like kind of anthropomorphic, like Jekyll looking things are actually aliens, which have come down and like are trying to enslave all the humans, and they basically put them all in like prison camps. And so this, like, the main characters are this family, and especially like their son, who's 17 years old, and he gets put in here, and he finds his dad, and then his mom is also there, like in across the way, and like behind like a chain link fence and everything. And so the first part of this is all about them being in this prison camp with these like evil aliens who are like, if you try to escape, we're gonna kill you, and we're also gonna kill 3 random people from the barracks. Like, they are not like,
those aren't good rules.
Yeah, there are no redeeming qualities, these aliens. Big evil. So basically they're going through this, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but like I kind of want to set it up so that you know where this story is going, because at first I was like, and it was really good, and I was like, oh, is this what this is about? Is this about like the long slow of like trying to escape from these aliens? But then some other aliens show up and give the first ones heck and start, and different things happen, and you're introduced to the Space Corps, who are basically like, something between like a space army that like is also kind of like the space police. Like when one person, like one like alien race is like being mean to another one, they come in and try to help. Mm-hmm. So basically they're coming in to try and help. One of the characters is a swarm of bees in a spacesuit, so I love that. That's incredible. It's so cool. Like, I've never seen that alien design, but I absolutely adore it. And basically, like, it's setting it up. What I think is probably going to happen is like the kid is going to go join Space Corps, And
okay.
so it's like the like origin story set up for like this whole intergalactic like adventure that's gonna happen. I'm so excited for it. So
Kyle, do you not like bees in spacesuits?
oh,
It seems very worried.
I just don't like bees.
Yo.
I like bees in Minecraft and the concept of bees because they're good, but I just don't like being around them.
Yeah. I do like bees. You have to be calm around them though.
Yeah.
Don't put live bees in a container.
Oh,
What
yeah.
if the bees put themselves in the container? What about that, Kyle?
Still bad.
No bees.
All right. Oof.
So funny.
Excited for this one.
I always try to teach my kids not to like swat at bees because that's when they bite you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were at Colonial Williamsburg eating barbecue, and one of the kids had barbecue on his face, and a bee came and landed and started, I was like, nope, let the bee share. And he was like, okay. And he just let the bee lick his face.
Bees are fine.
Yeah.
Yellow jackets.
Oh,
They'll
no,
attack
they're-
you for no
They're
reason.
accursed creatures. They'll just bite you because they want to. Yeah, but bees are usually pretty chill if you don't.
Yeah.
Because they're like, heck no,
Mm-hmm.
bush. I
And
stab
then
you.
there's bumblebees that are giant and they're just bump into you.
Yeah.
And even the stinger is of the devil. Okay. How about this awesome book, Death of Doctor Strange, Blade, which not only stars Blade, but Dracula, which a lot of people don't know that Dracula is an actual character in Marvel. He has a first appearance in everything, just like Frankenstein has a first appearance in Marvel. So if you ever wanted to have first appearances of, what are usually universal monsters, you can hunt those down. So this one is dealing with the after effects of Doctor Strange being dead.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point in some other book, it appears that Blade and Doctor Strange had gone around and pretty much decimated the vampire community, which they obviously, some of them must have survived because otherwise this wouldn't happen. This is now Blade is come and been part of Dracula's organization or groups and has protection there. It basically is like a bodyguard for Dracula who doesn't need it in any way. I'm not real sure what the through play is because it's clear that Dracula doesn't need any help. But there's a lot of stress in this book between the minions of Dracula and Blade, of course. So that's basically what's going on here. It's a power struggle that has been created by the vacuum of Doctor Strange not being there anymore.
Oh, now I get to review.
How many books have I made it through so far? One. You keep going. One.
Okay. This is what Kyle says is the best book this week. And I'm tempted to agree. The main reason I don't want to just completely agree is because there are so many different types of books. Like Star Squadron is a hilarious like satire book. So it's hard to say this one is the best because there's so many different kinds of books out there. But this one is amazing. I didn't know anything about it going in. And this book blew my mind. I mean, it's a book called Daisy. So, and like, it's got, at first glance, you see like medieval lady. But then I love this cover because if you look closer, you see that she's in front of prison wall marks that show that she is like 9 feet tall. And this is a character you see, like a 9 foot tall teenager is one of the characters you see in this. Like, she doesn't look like this with fire and stuff behind her. But this book is based on the like, and I'm not sure. I know that it says, like, I believe it does, it's the sources, but I know that there are the old stories of giants. The lore, which I think is it biblical or is it sort of okay? I can remember if it was actually in the Bible or it was kind of those tangential like works.
The sons of God came down and laid with women.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
giants. Yeah, so there are angels and giants, and this book really gets into both like flashbacks of like this lore actually happening, which is absolutely insane and gross. And like, because they're like, no spoilers here, because they talk about them a lot. You see the giant a little bit, and it's munching on the people. It's munching on everything. Munching on people, whatever. It's gross. And like, so you see all these like crazy mythological things, and it's cut like together with modern day, like our modern day, where a woman is looking for her lost son. And she is going to this little town because she says that she has received a phone call of somebody saying something that like only her son would know, like a reference to a family member specifically.
Okay.
And so she's going to try and find her son. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, because then that would be a spoiler. But this one is so crazy and so good. And like I said, it's just the way they tie the lore into like modern day is absolutely killer. That one came out of nowhere for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm very close to agreeing with Kyle that it's the best book of the week. So.
Okay. Hey, Adam, it's an hour show and we're at a half an hour, so you've got half a show still. Don't worry. You haven't missed it all. Let's do Devil's Reign, which is written by Chip Zdarsky, so you know it's crazy. Here's what it looks like. And it does star all the people on the front of this book, which it's primarily a story about Kingpin, but very much is important storytelling with, of course, Daredevil and Elektra, who's Daredevil. How confusing for them right now. And Captain America and Iron Man show up together in the story. Fantastic Four a little bit. And then Spidey, of course. So this is just kind of like, okay, so in the Marvel Universe right now, Wilson Fisk, who is Kingpin, has been serving as the mayor. And of course, he's not doing it altruistically. He's doing it to expand his power and reach and that kind of stuff. And I will tease you this book by saying that one of the other members of the people that I just mentioned here let it drop that they're thinking about running for mayor. But conversely, on the last pages, one of the characters also drops that they're thinking about running for a much more important office. Both things are terrifying in their concept.
Goodness.
So yeah, it could all end up being completely ridiculous.
Alrighty. Like so, I know this is one that a lot of people have been waiting on, and this is Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer #1. Which is absolutely awesome. And this one was, so I watched some Buffy growing up, but I am not like deeply versed on like what's going on and like all those characters. But I do know them enough. Knowing them a little bit helps, especially with like some of the references. But you could definitely go into this if you just like comics about monster slaying, and you will definitely pick up what the heck is going on. So in this one, Buffy is old, and but I don't know how old she is. She has gray hair, and they're always talking about how old she looks. So I mean, who knows? Like maybe she's
any age.
She could be 45, and because she's in a club at one point, and they're like, "Oh, grandma," and I'm like, she could literally just be a woman with no makeup on. So, but so. And there's also like weird stuff going on with her Slayer powers, and maybe she's not really the age that she looks because things are happening. And this is like way in the future, which I'm not sure if I ever really caught like exactly how far in the future this is. But at this point, the vampire slayers and the vampires are at a truce, where the slayers, unless the vampire is like actively attacking someone, they cannot kill them or attack the vampires.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be everybody is living in harmony. We're all good, but obviously they're not. I mean, it's pretty clear from the beginning. And Buffy has basically come out of she went into retirement and was like, I'm not doing this anymore, especially once the truce came around. And then she's come back out and was attempting to do things and set up an organization and help other people like to become slayers, and that did not work out. And it's part of why this is called The Last Vampire Slayer, as to what happens to the others that she's trying to train. But basically, at this beginning, it's just kind of setting it up that she's not in a good place. She's not in a good place mentally. She's having like some weird physical stuff going on, and she's just kind of struggling through life. And it sets it up at the very end. It shows like, hey, there's someone who needs her help and has reached out and shows up and is like, hey, you're not done. You're not going to be just an old lady in retirement. Like we've got stuff to do. Like I need help. So this was an awesome book. It very much sets the tone. Like I said, there's a lot of ground it covers just because you need to kind of understand like the whole dynamic between Slayer, vampire, setting up like kind of like the magical elements of the world. So that one is a good one to pick up. And like I said, I know a lot of people have already been looking forward to it for a while.
That's awesome.
Yes.
All right. Captain America, Iron Man. Like, why were we having a single issue or a single story just about these two?
Why?
I don't know.
I was hoping you would know because you read it.
I do.
Okay.
Oh gosh, yes. So it's a pretty, like when they have encapsulated storylines that are important.
Mm-hmm.
This one, really, they have a new bad guy team that shows up that are made up of Vox and oh my gosh, what are the names of all these guys? Do you guys remember Vox? Oh, it's a Vox, Pioneer, Prima Donna, and Think Tank. So these guys show up, and there's another like new, looks like an alien baddie that shows up also. I know it's just setting up a longer storyline. For my dollar this week, this one's an okay book, especially if you wanted to figure out a book to give to somebody that has never read comic books and you just want to give them a standalone story that doesn't necessarily connect to all the other things. Like this one doesn't connect to the big long play of the Devil's Reign. It doesn't connect to the big long play of death of Doctor Strange or the Magneto storyline that's been going on. So this is a good one to read or to give as a present. That's just a great get to know these two characters and some other bads.
Adam Skinner says 1 to 5. Is it
worth it? I don't know. If you're struggling and you're like, I can't, there's one book I got to put back this week. There's so many more I would say don't put back before this one. It's just like one of those things. It's not a bad book, totally a good book, but also with the amount of books that you need to read because they're tied in other things. If you're a through story person like I am, I would be the person that would be like, okay, not this book because I am working on reading all of those other storylines and I can't miss a part. So yeah, that would be the reason I would make the decision.
Perfect segue into one that if you can only have one book, maybe this is it, because this is Dark Knights of Steel #2. Everyone left the end of #1 screaming and in shock. And I will not be discussing the details of what happened on literally the last page of #1. But what you need to know about the story is that this is a what if story of what if Superman's parents left before the whole planet of Krypton started blowing up. What if they left earlier and they got into the capsule with their son and went to Earth? And because they left earlier in this timeline, they arrive at Earth in medieval times. And so also Batman is there. Batman is a part of their family. He's like in the guard, so he like lives in the castle. So you have basically all of the DC like heroes, but medieval, and it is awesome. They all have their powers like usual and everything. In this one, you see the Green Man, which is the Green Arrow, is in it, and you also have Constantine. Let's see, is that his full name? Constantine?
John Constantine.
Yeah, so they have John Constantine in it. And in this one, you also get to see you get to know more about like rivalries that are happening. Which for anybody who's read number 1 will be like, you'll get some answers. You're gonna get some answers in this one, and it's very good. And so it was a bit lost reading it. Yeah. So yeah, definitely number 1 is a ride, and this one explains a lot. And you also get to see Wonder Woman, you get to see Supergirl. You're bringing in all of the good DC characters, but in medieval times. And I will also say that I liked this one a lot, because this one, the first one is like introducing you to all the characters. This one gets more into the practical, because I was like, aliens have crashed on Earth in medieval times, like, and everyone's okay with it, like. But in this one, you start seeing more and more that people are not okay with the alien family who have become royalty, because they're basically like, they describe them as gods on Earth because they have all these superpowers. So this one is awesome. I absolutely adore the series. It's been coming out as Dark Knights of Steel. I always forget the title. That's the only thing about it, is that I always forget it. Yeah. But that one is so good. I was so excited when I saw number 2 out.
I think that there's a second print of number 1 coming, because the number 1 sold out immediately everywhere. So be patient. Should be out soon. So this is a cool new Vault series that is called Lunar Room, which is the most confusing first issue I have ever read. I am not going to lie to you.
That's saying a lot, Jen.
I know. And it's got, it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous book. It's clear that they're going for the werewolf thing. Oh, sorry, covering up the werewolf face. But the way that it's put out, the way it's told is in chapters, but no lie, some of the chapters are 3 panels long. Oh. And so it doesn't, this is what I think is going to happen. I think this first issue is just supposed to make you go, what? And then the second one, kind of like the Dark Knights of Steel, I think is going to get you to where you're like, oh, I totally get it now. So don't give up on it. But literally, I'm like, I don't know what I'm reading. She gets a monster hand at some point. I don't know. They don't get you to the point where you know what that's about.
Is it just temporary, or just you have a monster hand?
I don't know. We'll get there. So am I intrigued enough to read the second issue? Absolutely. I must be feeling full of sass today. I don't ever give negative reviews to anything. That's not a negative review. That's just kind of like, I don't know what I read.
Yeah.
But I can't always call them all amazing, or you guys are going to be like, Miss Jen will give anything an amazing review. So this is my, I need a second issue to know what's going on review.
I mean, that's how I feel like with a lot of the DC books lately. I'm like, I really like it, but I need to know what happens next. I can't wait.
Now this one, so I've been trying really hard when we pick out our books to pick things that are outside of my comfort zone. This is way outside my comfort zone. I would not usually pick this up. This is The Crimson Cage #1. This is a comic book about wrestling, and I loved it. This one is wild. And so it's actually like, and of course, like, leave it to me to find the spooky wrestling book, because there are supernatural elements in this. Yeah.
Is everything you read this week spooky except for the Star Squadron?
Yes, I had a great week. And so in this one, it opens up in the Louisiana Bayou. And the main character his wrestling name is The Frenzy. And he and his wife, who's also a wrestler, are down in Louisiana and they are wrestling, and he's like the best wrestler. He's like the top of this community of wrestling that they have in Louisiana. And his wife, however, you know, she's also like a great wrestler and she's also like top of her game there, but she is like really pushing him and saying, you know, hey, we need to go somewhere bigger. We need to go to the big city. She's like not happy where they are. He's like a little like, well, we could go somewhere bigger, but he's just happy where he is because he feels a real loyalty to his local, you know, the people who run the local wrestling. And so this deals a lot with like the whole like behind the scenes of wrestling, which I don't understand at all, but I did understand it enough from reading it to know the story. So basically his wife is really pushing him to like, we gotta move, we gotta go make big moves, you know, we gotta save money to move, you know, to somewhere bigger so that we can really be big stars. And after having these conversations, he gets drunk in a bar and then he wanders into the swamp to go fight an alligator. As like I guess you do, yeah. And so him and his friend go out into the swamp and they encounter like this crazy like witch monster. Like it's kind of set up as like a witch, like a person, but it's like I think it's probably like a cryptid. And basically the like bog witch creature says to them, and she like gives a prophecy and is like, oh, like I can give you this and I can give you this, but you gotta do something for me in return. And she gives him a knife and is like, you have to kill somebody if you want to be successful. So of course, like he's like, no way, we're not gonna do that, you know. And then right at the same time, so this is the main character, and then this guy with the blonde, majestic, like mutton chops, he is like number one in the US. Like he's a big hotshot, and he comes down to Louisiana and is like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, oh well, you're great, I'm gonna make you a big star and everything. And I guess from context, the guy who's been given the knife by the bog witch knows, hey, this is the guy I'm supposed to kill if I want to be really successful. And his wife is literally like, do it. Like, do it. And so the wife is like an instigator. Like, she's
Macbeth vibes.
It is Macbeth vibes. It is. This is the Macbeth of wrestling. So that's like the setup for it. I'm not going to spoil because like crazy stuff happens at the end of this too. But yeah, so like crazy Macbeth wrestling, bog witch, toxic relationships, it's all happening in the Crimson Cage. Like this one was so good. Thank you to Shanice for getting me interested enough in wrestling to pick it up and be like, I want to read that one.
All right, so I suspect that this is the Star Wars Crimson Reign. I suspect that people that are interested in the new Boba Fett show on Disney Plus, where the whole gist of it is that he is trying to gain power for himself within the kind of bad guy community by saying, you know, I think the commercial's like, you can do whatever you want. We're fine with it. Just let us be the boss. And this one is kind of like another one of those, like, we have a power struggle that's going on, but we're being super smart and sneaky about it. So I forgot her name, but this is the leader of, dadgummit. Like, seriously, today, my brain has dropped every word that I've needed. What is the name of it? Is it the Crimson Dawn or Sun? I can't remember the name of the dark Sith-based baddies. Goodness. Yep, that's her name. I know her name. What's the name of the organization that she heads?
I'll keep an eye out for you.
Dadgummit. Okay, so she gets together with a bunch of other bad groups that we know exist. Crimson Dawn, thank you. I was like, it didn't make any sense to me. I was like, because in my brain I was thinking of it was a movie that uses a line that's close to those words, and I always say it can't be that one. So anyway, so she gets together with the Knights of Ren and other assorted bounty hunter kind of groups or bad guy groups that are not the Hutts, and starts working within the other bigger groups to further this really crazy scheme they've got going on. They don't actually tell you in the book what the end game is, what she's trying for, but you can see it playing out on the page where they're approaching all of these much larger organizations that are about the size of the Hutts and saying to them, basically, I think the Hutts are accusing you of something or whatever. They're basically getting every single one of these groups to infight by telling all of them individually that we want to just be the people that you think about when you need to hire someone to assassinate someone or whatever, but we don't want to be the big guys because that's too much paperwork or whatever, the way that they put it. So they're basically like stroke the ego of all these people. We just want to make it so that you guys specifically are the big ones. And then you remember us when you're making all the money and then throw some our way and we're good and there's no stress. But that's not really what's going on. It's so good. I love a good bait and switch, twisty twist things, and that it happens in the Star Wars universe makes it even better.
What a twist.
So good.
Right. So this one, my last one I've got this week is World of Krypton #1. So this one, I was excited for it. It does do the thing which I was kind of surprised by. The cover art does not match the interior art, which always I'm just one of those people that like I kind of get thrown off, and I think especially because Dark Knights of Steel, this like the cover art, it looks like that all the way through. That is not just like something they did for the cover. So I guess kind of I was expecting. I mean, and this is the image they've been really using to promote it. The interior is a much more cartoony and like it's a really fun style, but it definitely does just get your guys' brains ready for it, because mine was not. But so this story inside of it is all about like this like political intrigue to do with the L's, which are Superman's family, on Krypton. Like, and there's a lot of characters which I didn't recognize any of them like at all, but they're all like new characters to me. It's not like Superman's like stomping around there, but it's basically like this like political and like kind of like drama where there's different parts of the family are they're all very politically active. They're all very powerful. They're all in different arms of the government. It's just one of those really well-connected families. They're basically like the Kennedys of Krypton, and so they have made some enemies along the way. And honestly, like, I feel like I need to reread it because I did have a little bit of trouble like keeping up with like, okay, wait, who's this? Because all their names are like Zora, Tora, Cora, all their last names are L. It is a little confusing. I feel like I needed a cheat sheet of like who all these people are. And so it was good, but like I said, I did get a little lost in it. But this was mine this week that I was like, I'm not sure what's going on. But it's good, and it definitely is interesting to see Krypton, what Krypton was like before it exploded. It doesn't explode in this book. I don't know if it's going to. I don't know if this is like the story of it exploding or if it's just like a little like drama that's happening on it. So
I feel like there was a show about that was focused on Krypton. I wonder if that happens during that show's arc. So if you watch the show, maybe you know those characters better. That might be happening. So you're gonna looks like 62 Lefty Blues is gonna wait until the trade paperback, but really loves the interior artist Emming.
Yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, I'm just one of those people that like I will always tell you if the cover is drastically different from the interior, because I'm like, oh, a comic, and I open it and I have to have a moment, you know.
All right, we're gonna go real fast because we're running up against the time. This is my favorite book of the week. This one is Tales of Mother F. Goose. It's a single shot out of Aftershock. You don't need to have anything else after this. It is by Frank Thierry and Joe Eisma. And it is a long tale that is told about kind of this infighting amongst all these, think like the mob families, although they don't call them necessarily the mob. It is a bunch of crooked and double-crossing police officers, but it really is the storyline that's being told as two police officers are standing over a dead body at the very beginning of the book, and they're like, well, who killed this guy? And the police officer reveals that he's got 3 dudes that he found that were in or near the alleyway when he got there. He put them in his trunk.
With the 3 dudes?
3 dudes. He just threw them in the trunk.
It's a big
He
trunk.
knows kind of who 2 of them are, what their connections are to what part of organized crime, but he doesn't know who the third one is. But the way the book is told is it jumps back and forth between storylines being told about him, his partner, and these 3 dudes and the other members of the mafia or whatever. But their names and the way that they are all end up being Mother Goose names and characters. Although it never ever jumps into goofiness. They just have that connection. And it's just very creatively told in that way that it's just like, these are the 3 mice. I get it.
That's wild.
That's the cat.
Yeah.
So did I notice? Yeah, that was the thing that I love so much, because that was what made everything so amazing.
Yeah.
So the 3 little pigs own competing casinos. One only has very light security. That one's the one that's got straw in its name.
Oh my goodness. That's wild.
And I just want to point out really fast as we get in our last couple of minutes, there is a release that happens either in your shop very soon or now. A new thing out of Scout Comics, which is amazing, is this cool thing called Launch. And they are set up to help you give books to your kids at the right level. So they have on the back the level that they're designed for. Like these, like Bandit's Imagination, Tub Trouble, have only little tiny amounts of words in them. You can read, these are like good first word books. Then you have something that has number 2s, and that is like
what I have is number 1.
This one, which just has a regular basic sentence structure, nothing really big in it. And then you get to number 3, and this one actually is one of the cool books that you remember from like Dr. Seuss that has rhyming in it. So it's a very fun book to read. You're quite a clever cat. I could use a friend like that.
Oh,
So they're
sweet.
really great. The Super Cats books are by Caleb Thusat, and drawn by Angela Odling, which I love those. And then this just now got picked up by them. This is the first time you've ever seen Bandit. But this one was previously, the character was previously only seen, I think, as Kickstarted things. I think they were self-published before. So this is a new line that they've got. Support this part of their line, because they really are trying to give us something so that we can get our kids and our grandkids and our nieces and nephews and stuff into the comic book world and loving reading right away. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate you sticking around with us, and we'll see you guys next time for Minute to Skim It.
Bye.